ZL 200, and it is desired that ZI50 the quarter wave transformer should have a characteristic impedance of A100, B40, C10,000, D4. The correct answer is 100. A broadside array consisting of 200 cm wavelength with 10 half-wave dipole spacing 10 cm. And if each array element feeding with 1 amp current and operating at same frequency, then find the half-power beamwidth. A4, B2, C10, D15. The correct answer is 2. Refractive index of glass is 1.5. Find the wavelength of a beam of light with a frequency of 10-14 Hz in glass. Assume velocity of light is 3 × 10⁸ m/s in vacuum. A4 m, B3 m, C2 m, D1 m. The correct answer is 2 m. The function fx we ought represent which of the following? A stationary wave, B a wave motion in forward direction, C a wave motion in reverse direction, D none of the above. The correct answer is a wave motion in forward direction. A broadside array operating at 100 cm wavelength consists of 4 half-wave dipoles spaced 50 cm apart. Each element carries radio frequency current in the same phase and of magnitude 0.5 A. The radiated power will be A 196 watts, B 73 watts, C 36.5 watts, D 18.25 watts. The correct answer is 196 watts. The input impedance of short-circuited line of length L where for L2 is A resistive, B inductive, C capacitive, D none of the above. The correct answer is capacitive. A wave is propagated in a waveguide at frequency of 9 GHz and separation is 2 cm between walls. Find cut-off wavelength for dominant mode. A 4 cm, B 1 cm, C 2 cm, D 8 cm. The correct answer is 4 cm. Find the radiation resistance of an antenna of length 10 meter. A 8, B 780, C 7.8, D 78. The correct answer is 7.8. Charge needed within a unit sphere centered at the origin for producing a potential field. A 12 pc, B 60 pc, C 120 pc, D 180 pc. The correct answer is 120 pc. A rectangular metal waveguide filled with a dielectric of relative permittivity R4 has the inside dimensions 3 by 1.2 cm. The cutoff frequency for the dominant mode is A 2.5 GHz, B 5 GHz, C 10 GHz, D 12.5 GHz. The correct answer is 5 GHz. A wave is propagated in a waveguide at frequency of 9 GHz and separation is 2 cm between walls. Calculate group velocity for dominant mode. A 1.8 × 10⁸ m/s, B 5 × 10⁸ m/s, C 3 × 10⁸ m/s, D 1.5 × 10⁸ m/s. The correct answer is 1.8 × 10⁸ m/s. For F1 layer the maximum ionic density is 2.3 × 10⁴ electrons per cc. The critical frequency for this layer will be A 1.36 MHz, B 13.6 MHz, C 136 MHz, D 1360 MHz. The correct answer is 13.6 MHz. The velocity of electromagnetic wave in a good conductor is A 3x10 8 ms. B more than 3x10 8 ms. C very low. D high. The correct answer is very low. Consider a 300 quarter wave long at 1 GHz transmission line as shown in figure. It is connected to a 10V50 source at one end is left open circuited at the other end. The magnitude of the voltage at the open circuit end of the line is A 10V, B 5V, C 60V, D 67 volt. The correct answer is 10V. The phase angle corresponding to 4 in a standing wave pattern is A 30, B 90, C 135, D 180. The correct answer is 90. A hollow rectangular waveguide has dimensions A to B. Calculate the amount of attenuation if the frequency is 3 GHz and B 1 cm. A 49, B 47.33, C 50.33, D 50. The correct answer is 47.33. Calculate the directivity of an antenna for E3860. A 46, B 23, C 50, D 100. The correct answer is 23. A 75J 40 watts load is connected to a coaxial line of Z075 at 6 MHz. The load matching on the line can be accomplished by connecting A short circuit stub at the load, B an inductance at the load, C a short circuit stub at a specific distance from the load, D a capacitance at a specific distance from the load. The correct answer is an inductance at the load. A plane wave is characterized by the wave is A linearly polarized, B circularly polarized, C elliptically polarized, D unpolarized. The correct answer is elliptically polarized. The electric field on the surface of a perfect conductor is 2 Vm. The conductor is immersed in water with AT0. The surface charge density on the conductor is 0.10 September 1936 ppm. A0 cm2, B2 cm2, C 1.8 x 1011 cm2, D 1.14 x 109 cm2. The correct answer is 1.14 x 109 cm2. A wave is propagated in a waveguide at frequency of 9 GHz and separation is 2 cm between walls. Calculate the phase velocity for dominant mode. A 3 x 108 msec, B 5 x 108 msec, C 1.5 x 108 msec, D 9 x 108 msec. The correct answer is 5 x 108 msec. A plane electromagnetic wave travels in dielectric medium of relative permittivity 9. Relative to free space, the velocity of propagation in the dielectric is A increased by a factor of 9, B increased by a factor of 3, C unchanged, D reduced by a factor of 1/3. The correct answer is reduced by a factor of 1/3. Consider a lossless antenna with a directive gain of 6 dB. If 1 megawatt of power is fed to it, the total power radiated by the antenna will be A 4 megawatt, B 1 megawatt, C 7 megawatt, D 14 megawatt. The correct answer is 4 megawatt. A uniform plane wave is one in which A x0, B, C and are perpendicular, D and lie in a plane. The correct answer is and lie in a plane. A short-circuited stub is shunt connected to a transmission line as shown in the figure is if Z0 500 ohms. The admittance Y seen at the function of the stub and the transmission line is A 0.01 J 0.02 mho. B 0.02 J 0.01 mho, C 0.04 J 0.02 mho, D 0.02 J 0 mho. The correct answer is 0.01 J 0.02 mho. Which of the following should dominant wave have? A. Lowest cutoff frequency. B. Highest cutoff frequency. C. No attenuation. D. No phase shift. The correct answer is lowest cutoff frequency. Calculate the wave impedance for trademark mode in rectangular waveguide for dominant mode at 3 GHz having A. 120p, B. 377, C. 226, D. 629. The correct answer is 226. The divergence of the electric field intensity at any point equals A. 14P0 times the volume charge density, B. L0 times the volume charge density at that point, C. 0 times the volume charge density at that point, D. the volume charge density at that point. The correct answer is L0 times the volume charge density at that point. For a 400 kHz transmission line having L 0.5 mH km C 0.08 mF and negligible R and G, the value of propagation constant P will be A. 15.9 radians kilometer, B. 31.8 radians kilometer, C. 63.6 radians kilometer, D. 105.4 radians kilometer. The correct answer is 15.9 radians kilometer. The depth of penetration of EM wave in medium having conductivity at a frequency of 1 MHz is 25 cm. The depth of penetration at a frequency of 4 MHz will be A. 6.25 cm, B. 12.50 cm, C. 50 cm, D. 100 cm. The correct answer is 12.50 cm. What is the characteristic impedance at 10 MHz? A. 547.7, B. 54.7, C. 5.47, D. 547. The correct answer is 547.7. A rectangular waveguide measures 3 by 4.5 cm internally and has a 10 GHz signal propagated in it. Calculate the wave impedance for dominant mode. A. 130p, B. 1.3p, C. 120p, D. 12p. The correct answer is 1.3p. Calculate wave impedance for TE mode. A. 377, B. 226, C. D. 629. The correct answer is 629. In a 100-turn coil, if the flux through each turn is T32 TMWB, the magnitude of the induced EMF in the coil at a time of 4 sec is A. 46 MV, B. 56 MV, C. 4.6 V, D. 5.6 V. The correct answer is 4.6 V. A transmission line is feeding 1 watt of power to a horn antenna having a gain of 10 dB. The antenna is matched to the transmission line. The total power radiated by the horn antenna into the free space is A. 10 watts, B. 1 watt, C. 0.1 watt, D. 0.01 watt. The correct answer is 10 watts. A parallel polarized wave is incident from air into paraffin having relative permittivity 3. The value of its Brewster angle is A. 0, B. 30, C. 45, D. 60. The correct answer is 60. In a conductor, which of the following relations hold good? AX dr, B dr, CX D0, D D0. The correct answer is X D0. The radiation resistance of a 16-wired dipole in free space will be nearly A1, B3, C13, D30. The correct answer is 3. Find the noise factor for an antenna at 27 C with equivalent noise temperature 30 K. A20, B100, C300, D1.1. The correct answer is 1.1. The displacement flux density at a point on the surface of a perfect conductor is 2ax3azcm2 pointing away from the surface. The charge density at that point cm2 will be A2, B2, C4, D4. The correct answer is 4. Characteristic impedance of a transmission line is 50. Input impedance of the open circuited line, ZOC 100J 150. When transmission line is short-circuited, then value of the input impedance will be A50, B100J 150, C7.69J 11.54, D7.69J 11.54. The correct answer is 7.69J 11.54.